I never thought I'd be typing this out, but here I am at 3 a.m. in a dimly lit motel room, trying to make sense of how my life imploded in just 24 hours. The whiskey beside me is half empty, but my mind has never been clearer. Yesterday, my girlfriend of 3 years, Victoria, admitted she'd been cheating on me, but it wasn't just the confession, it was the way she did it, with this smug little smile that made my blood run cold. The worst part, my closest friends knew all along. Looking back, the signs were scattered like crimson flags through the past few months. Victoria, who used to work standard hours at Preston Matthews Legal, suddenly had endless late-night case reviews. She started wearing this distinctive Chanel perfume I'd never seen before, and designer clothes kept appearing in our closet way above her paralegal salary. Her iPhone became like a third arm. Password changed weekly, always face down when I was around. I'm not the paranoid type, ask anyone who knows me. Hell, I was the guy who encouraged her to go to after-work drinks, never questioned girls' nights out, trusted her completely, but something in my gut was screaming that things weren't right. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I was folding laundry, yes, I did most of the housework, while she built her career when her phone lit up on our $3,000 coffee table she'd insisted we needed. A message preview from Chase popped up, still thinking about last night in the partner's suite. Your perf. My hands went numb. The same partner's suite where I'd attended the firm's Christmas party just months ago, making small talk with senior partners while Victoria networked. The same suite where she claimed they held their important client meetings. When she got home that night, wearing a pencil skirt that definitely wasn't office appropriate, I decided enough was enough. She was in our kitchen, making one of her pretentious green smoothies in our Vitamix, acting like everything was normal. The scent of the Chanel perfume mixed with something else, something masculine. Who's Chase? I asked, leaning against our marble countertop. Another of her must-have purchases. The change in her demeanor was instant, but not what I expected. Instead of panic or guilt, a slow, triumphant smile spread across her perfectly glossed lips. Her green eyes, which I once thought sparkled with love, now gleamed with something closer to contempt. Finally figured it out, Ryan, she practically purred, taking a deliberate sip from her smoothie. Chase is the managing partner, and yes, I've been sleeping with him for the past 4 months. The casual way she confessed felt like a knife to the gut, but she wasn't done twisting the blade. I needed a real man, she continued, examining her fresh manicure. Someone ambitious, who wears Tom Ford suits instead of hoodies from Target. Someone who makes partner by 30 instead of playing Xbox with Marcus and watching those pathetic Marvel movies. Through the ringing in my ears, I managed to ask the question that hurt the most. Does Sophia know? Sophia, my best friend since college, who'd introduced us at her wedding 3 years ago. Victoria's laugh was like broken glass. Oh honey, Sophia's known for weeks. They all have. She agrees I deserve better. Chase has a summer house in the Hamptons. Ryan, he drives a Porsche, not a 5-year-old Subaru. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and opened my group chat with Marcus and Sophia. Is this true? You all knew? Marcus's response came instantly. Bro, you're my boy. But Victoria's operating at a different level now. Don't take it personally. Sophia chimed in. We didn't want to hurt you, but maybe this is the wake-up call you need. You can't expect someone like Victoria to wait around while you find yourself. I looked up from my phone to find Victoria watching me, that same smirk playing on her lips. She was waiting for the explosion, the drama, the scene she could tell her country club friends about later. Poor, unstable Ryan, losing his cool when faced with reality. Instead, I smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile that seemed to catch her off guard. Without a word, I walked to our bedroom, grabbed my pre-packed weekend bag, a habit from spontaneous camping trips she always hated, my laptop, and my car keys. When I passed through the kitchen again, Victoria's smirk had faltered slightly. Where do you think you're going? She demanded, her voice losing its composure for the first time. Out, I replied simply. And Victoria, keep the apartment. I'm sure Chase can help with the rent on his partner's salary. I heard her start to say something as I closed the door, But for the first time in months, I didn't care about her words. My phone was already exploding with messages, probably from our so-called friends trying to explain themselves. As I drove away in my practical, paid-off Subaru, I turned off my phone and felt something unexpected: relief. Sometimes losing everything shows you exactly what you never had in the first place. I had no idea where I was going, but for the first time since I could remember, I felt like I was heading in the right direction. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a story that would shake the foundations of one of Boston's most prestigious law firms and expose a web of lies that went far deeper than my cheating girlfriend. First, thank you all for the overwhelming support on my initial post. The events that unfolded over the past 3 weeks have been nothing short of cinematic, and I'm still processing everything that happened. Grab your popcorn, because this update is wild. After 3 days at the Lighthouse Inn, a modest motel on the outskirts of Boston, I finally turned my phone back on. The notification storm was biblical: 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, and countless social media alerts. Most were from Victoria, some from Marcus and Sophia, and several from numbers I didn't recognize. But the real show was happening on social media. Victoria had been busy, really busy. Her Instagram story painted me as a controlling, jealous monster who monitored her every move. According to her carefully crafted narrative, I had emotionally manipulated her for years, isolated her from friends, and thrown a violent tantrum when she finally found the courage to leave. Each post had hundreds of sympathetic comments, including ones from people I'd considered friends for years. The crown jewel was a tearful video where she claimed I had financially abused her by forcing her to split our bills 50-50 while I hoarded my money, rich coming from someone who earned twice my salary and insisted on that arrangement herself. The video had gone viral in our social circle, with even my cousin Rachel commenting. I always knew something was off about him. Then came the text from Jasmine, my colleague at the software company where I work. Ryan, check your email ASAP. Something's going around the office about you. Sure enough, there was a company-wide email about creating a safe workplace environment with a thinly veiled reference to recent concerning behaviors from certain employees. No names mentioned, but the timing wasn't subtle. Victoria's reach was extending beyond our social circle, threatening my professional life. I should have been angry. Maybe I should have fought back, post my side of the story. Instead, I felt a detached curiosity. How far would she take this? Pretty far, as it turned out. Yesterday, I stopped by the Common Ground, my regular coffee shop, where Victoria had never set foot because she considered it too hipster. Wrong move. The barista, Sarah, who'd always been friendly, gave me a look that could curdle milk. Later, I found out Victoria had become a regular there, sharing her survival story with anyone who would listen. But here's where fate decided to throw me a curveball. While picking up some clothes from our storage unit, I ran into Madison, Victoria's supposed best friend from law school. She looked nervous, constantly glancing over her shoulder, like she was in a spy movie. "You need to be careful," she whispered, pulling me behind a row of storage units. "Chase isn't just a managing partner. His wife, Eleanor, she's old money like. Family name on university buildings, money. And Victoria's been telling her that you're unstable, dangerous even." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, studying her face. Madison's eyes darted around again. "Because this isn't the first time. Before you, there was another guy at the firm, David Richardson. Victoria and Chase, they did the same thing to him. He ended up leaving Boston altogether. His reputation was destroyed." That conversation changed everything. I spent the night diving deep: legal records, social media, anything I could find. David Richardson existed, all right. Rising star associate, abruptly disappeared from the firm's website and social media around the time Victoria started working there. His LinkedIn profile had been dormant for 2 years. The next morning, my phone rang. Our landlord, Mr. Sullivan. Victoria had tried to remove my name from the lease, claiming I had abandoned the property. When that failed, she told him I'd been threatening her. He called to warn me, saying his sister had gone through something similar years ago. But the real game-changer came that afternoon. A message request on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. Mrs. Eleanor Chase. The profile picture showed a striking woman in her late 40s, wearing what looked like vintage Cartier. The message was simple. Mr. Stevens, I believe we need to talk about my husband and your ex-girlfriend. Shall we say tomorrow? 2 p.m. at the Bristol Lounge. Some stories are better discussed over single malts. That meeting changed everything. Eleanor Chase wasn't just old money, she was a former prosecutor turned private investigator. She'd been gathering evidence for months, not just about Victoria and Chase, but about a pattern of behavior at the firm spanning years. David Richardson wasn't the first. Eleanor had documented 5 similar situations over the past decade. Young, ambitious employees getting involved with Chase, then helping to destroy anyone who might expose them. The difference this time, Eleanor was done playing quiet. She had everything: texts, emails, expense reports, security footage from the firm's garage, even recordings of Victoria bragging about their scheme to other associates. But she wanted one final piece: public exposure. That's where the firm's upcoming 50th anniversary gala came in. Sometimes, Eleanor told me, swirling her Macallan 25, the best revenge is simply letting people show their true colors. In the right light, snakes can't help but shine. The gala was at the Four Seasons, all crystal chandeliers and old-world opulence. I arrived fashionably late, wearing a bespoke suit Eleanor had insisted on. If you're going to watch Rome burn, she'd said, you might as well dress for the occasion. The looks when I walked in were priceless. Victoria, draped in a red Valentino dress, nearly dropped her champagne. Chase's face performed an impressive color-changing trick, from red to white faster than a traffic light. But I didn't have to do anything. Sophia approached first, clearly 3 glasses deep into her courage. You've got some nerve showing up here, she slurred, loud enough to draw attention. After everything Victoria said you did. Everything I did, I smiled, channeling Victoria's old smirk. Please, Sophia, tell everyone exactly what I did. Be specific. That's when Jasmine stepped forward. Remember her, my co-worker? Turns out she'd been quietly building her own file, screenshots of Victoria bragging in company chat groups, recordings of her planning the smear campaign with Chase, emails about their partnership track arrangement. Actually, Jasmine announced, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room, I think we'd all like to hear the real story. The next hour was like watching a masterclass in karmic justice. Eleanor timed her entrance perfectly, tablet in hand. The gala's presentation screen accidentally started playing a slideshow of incriminating messages and photos. Victoria's increasingly desperate attempts to maintain control of her narrative crumbled with each new revelation. But the real show came from Marcus, good old Marcus, who'd been filming everything on his phone, planning to show it to Chase later to prove his loyalty. Instead, he captured Victoria's complete meltdown in 4K's glory. You think you're so clever, she screamed at me, mascara creating dark rivers down her cheeks. You and that bitter old woman, trying to ruin everything I've built. Chase loves me. We're going to have a future together. That's when Eleanor decided to share her final card, divorce papers, already filed. Turns out Chase had been promising Victoria the same future he'd promised those other employees. Same script, different actress. The best part, through all of this, I barely said a word, just watched as years of manipulation and lies unraveled in real time. Madison, who'd been quiet all evening, finally spoke up. I helped her, she admitted, addressing the stunned room. I helped her destroy David's reputation. I can't carry that anymore. By midnight, the gala was effectively over. Victoria had stormed out, her Valentino catching on the door in her haste. Chase was locked in a conference room with the firm's ethics committee and 2 very serious-looking lawyers. Those friends who'd been so quick to believe Victoria's stories couldn't meet my eyes as they slipped away. As I was leaving, Eleanor caught my arm. Thank you, she said, for being the one who didn't run. The aftermath was swift and comprehensive. Both Chase and Victoria were asked to resign. The firm's legal team, desperate to avoid publicity, moved at light speed. Eleanor's evidence sparked multiple investigations. not just internal but from the Bar Association. David Richardson came forward, then others. What started as one scandal became an avalanche that exposed decades of corruption and manipulation at the firm. Victoria tried one last plan, another tearful video, claiming she was the real victim. That's when Madison released their private chats, showing Victoria bragging about destroying people's lives for fun. Last week, Victoria showed up at the Lighthouse Inn. Frank, the owner who'd become something of a friend, called me at work. That girl you told me about, she's making a scene in the parking lot. I took my time driving back, found her sitting on the hood of my Subaru, clutching a manila envelope. I have dirt on everyone, she said, trying to sound threatening despite her shaking voice. If you don't help me stop this, I'll release it all. I laughed, actually laughed. Go ahead, burn every bridge you have left. See how that works out. She threw the envelope at me. Inside were photos, screenshots, private messages, and ammunition she'd collected over years of manipulating people. Her insurance policy. I took pictures of every page while she watched, then handed it back. Release whatever you want, I said, but first, look at where your previous schemes got you. The thing about people like Victoria, they can't stand when their weapons are turned against them. She tore up the envelope right there in the parking lot, screaming about how we'd all regret this. That tantrum. Someone recorded it. It was trending on Twitter within hours. The final chapter came yesterday. Eleanor's divorce was finalized. She got everything. The mansion, the summer houses, the art collection. Chase's golden parachute went to legal fees and settlements. His reputation, let's just say Google, is not his friend anymore. Victoria's back in Minnesota with her parents. Her social media's gone dark. Those friends who sided with her are dealing with their own fallout. Turns out backing the wrong horse has consequences. Marcus tried to apologize last week. I replied with screenshots of his old messages supporting Victoria. He blocked me. Coward. Nay, I just signed the lease on a penthouse apartment. Turns out software engineers are in high demand when they're not distracted by toxic relationships. Got a promotion, too. And yes, I'm seeing someone new. Taking it slow, doing it right. The best revenge isn't plotting or scheming, it's living well and letting people destroy themselves. But I won't lie, watching karma work its magic in real time has been deeply satisfying. This will be my last update. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back and let people show their true colors. In the right light, everyone casts a shadow. Some people just cast theirs deeper than others. P.S. Eleanor and I still meet for single malt once a month. We toast to karma, justice, and the peculiar way life has of balancing its books.